We're currently living in a time where three different men have the claim of being the best heavyweight on the planet and being the baddest man on the planet. But we're never going to find out who that man is. We're never going to find out who really is the best heavyweight of this era, because none of them are going to fight each other. Not a single one of these matchups will be made, and the question of who the best heavyweight is of this era is never going to be answered. Now, I'm recording this video a day after Francis beat Renan Ferreira in the PFL and absolutely demolished the guy. You know, there's a lot of questions right now about who really is the best heavyweight on the planet. When this video will be coming out, it probably would have been about half a week ago since then. But you know, it's still relevant and there's still a question that I want to answer. Starting with the first guy who has the claim of being the best heavyweight on the planet, it's the UFC heavyweight champion, Jon Jones. Now, what is Jon's real claim to being the baddest man on the planet right now? Well, it's pretty simple. He's the guy with the UFC belt. Obviously beat Ciryl to get it, not defended it, but there you go. There's Jon Jones' argument and claim to being the baddest man on the planet right now. He's the guy with the most prestigious belt. Moving on to the second guy with the claim of being the baddest man on the planet, it's Tom Aspinall. Now, Tom Aspinall, even though he's a part of this era of heavyweights, even when this era moves on, he'll probably go on to be the best heavyweight of the era after this. Now, what is Tom Aspinall's real claim to being the heavyweight champ? Well, he's beat more guys than Jon Jones has. Jon Jones has one win at heavyweight, while Tom Aspinall has multiple, beating the likes of Curtis Blades and Sergey Pavlovich. I was going to accidentally say Sergey Spivak then. But he's the interim champion, so he's not technically the champion, but in most people's mind, he already is. He's a lot more active than Jones. He's defended his belt, where Jon hasn't even defended his, so he has more defenses than the actual champion. And some would even argue that Curtis Blades or, you know, Pavlovich are better wins than Ciryl Gane. And it seemed like Ciryl Gane was ducking Tom Aspinall back when Tom wanted to fight him up the rankings. So that's Tom Aspinall's claim. Interim champ, and he has the most recent resume. That's very good. Most recent. Now, the next guy that we got is the lineal heavyweight champion, UFC heavyweight champion of the world, Francis Ngannou. So while Francis may not be the UFC heavyweight champion of the world, he never lost his belt. He left the organization. And since then, he's gone into boxing, arguably beat Tyson Fury, lost to AJ, but then went on to beat the PFL's champ in 3 minutes, dominating him. So Francis's claim is the fact he never lost the belt. He never showed any weaknesses in his title run. Dominated Stipe, beat the fuck out of Ciryl Gane. So yeah, what we have right here is we have 3 different claims to being the baddest man on the planet. We have the lineal champ, the interim champ, and the actual champ, who all have separate claims to varying degrees of strength. Now that I've gone over the claims that each of these guys have, I want to go over how I think the matchups would go between these guys and who I personally think is the baddest man on the planet right now, or at least give the general thoughts and ideas so you can form your own opinion, you know what I'm saying? Starting off with Jon Jones and how I believe his matchups at heavyweight would go against these other 2 guys. Starting off with Jones versus Ngannou, which, you know, for me is the biggest fight I've missed out on. Why, being a UFC fan, upsetting, man. Like, it still hurts, bro. It still hurts. But I was always of the opinion that Jones wouldn't be able to take Francis down. The reason why is because Francis isn't a Ciryl Gane. Francis can wrestle. Francis is extremely strong. Francis is a very gifted wrestler. He became a very good wrestler over time. And when it comes to striking, Jones was looking so slight. We don't have a lot to go off when it comes to Jon at heavyweight. But what we have to go off, the short time that we do have to, like, you know, to look at, he was slow on the feet. He looked extremely slow. Francis looked faster. And we all know with Francis carries around a lot of muscle, relatively slow but packs a punch. He looked faster than Jon, and while Jon has a very gifted chin, one of the best chins of all time, you know, the guy's never really been hurt. We're talking about Francis Ngannou here. Francis Ngannou is gonna hurt your chin. Simple as, he's gonna hurt your chin. I'm of the belief that Francis would knock out Jon Jones. I've always thought that. I think that now. And that is my thought on how that fight would go. Then we move on to Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Now, Tom Aspinall, at heavyweight at the very least, is 10 times faster than Jon Jones. Tom Aspinall is a very gifted grappler. Extremely gifted grappler. And I'm sorry, but I am very confident in the fact that Tom Aspinall would wipe the floor with Jon Jones. I think that he would completely outstrike him. And the wrestling's a bit more interesting. It is. But I don't think Jon would outclass him at the wrestling at all. I genuinely believe Tom Aspinall would completely outclass Jon Jones at heavyweight. Tom Aspinall for me is practically the perfect heavyweight. The one hole that he has is when with his head movement he's pretty open to being hit. But Jon Jones has never hurt anyone with power in his hands. So for me, I think Jon's the third best heavyweight in the world and would lose to both of these guys. Now the last matchup to go over is Ngannou versus Tom, because I've already said that I think both of these guys beat Jon Jones. I think this is an extremely exciting matchup. When it comes to the ground, I think when it comes to wrestling, Francis would have the advantage. When it comes to the jiu-jitsu on the ground and the general threat, I think that Tom would have the advantage. I think Tom would be able to at least be defensively good enough. If Cyril Gane was, I think Tom wouldn't get TKO'd on the ground. I think he would actually pose more of a threat on the ground, but Francis would be the stronger guy, controlling the positions. On the feet, it's more interesting. First of all, Francis does have a goated chin. Don't let the AJ fight fool you. Before that, the guy had never been hurt except from like the tiniest bit by Stipe when he was coming in with a big fucking lounging shot. Now, Tom, you know, very powerful, but he's open. He's open. Okay. Do I think Tom could beat him? Yes. But it'd be extremely risky. Extremely risky. And I believe that this fight could genuinely go either way. I think Tom is the more skilled fighter. But I just think due to Francis's power and that one hole in Tom's game, this fight could generally go either way. For me, the baddest man on the planet is between these two men. So 100% between these two men. And if you say to me it's one or the other, I don't think you're an idiot at all. Anyway, that's it, man. Much love. Subscribe, like, in a bit. Goodbye.